Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, we'll talk about some comments from Chris Woodward about Clayton Kershaw. We'll talk about a few signings the Dodgers made and one that they might potentially make. And then we will talk about some signings that other teams made, specifically Steven Matz with the Cardinals and Wander Franco with the Rays. All that coming up. So let's get Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, Dodger fans. I am Jeff Snider of Baseball Essential, and this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm flying solo today. Vince will probably be back with me tomorrow. I don't know what we're going to do for Thanksgiving tomorrow, actually, but we'll have an episode for you for sure, either together or split, but you'll see both of us on Thanksgiving morning if you so choose to. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every day. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. This is the daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. Like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about Clayton Kershaw. I'm going to jump into that first. We'll talk about Kershaw and some news about Corey Seager, not news, quote unquote news. And then later we'll talk about some other things. But Clayton Kershaw, Chris Woodward the other day was asked about Clayton Kershaw, and basically what Woodward said, I don't have the quotes in front of me. Paraphrase works. He said, Kershaw and I are good friends. We've talked, and if he wants to come to the Rangers, we would love to have him. Which basically is kind of the definition of what else is new. We've all known that the Rangers would love to have him. We'd all known that that's a possibility if he does want to play closer to home. And so it doesn't really tell us anything new. I guess knowing that they actually have been in contact with Kershaw is technically new, but it's not surprising for sure. And, it really, for me, it still boils down to what Kershaw wants to do with his life. And for me, I have a hard time picturing him wanting to play for the Rangers. I know the Rangers are trying to spend money. They're trying to get good, but the Rangers just traded for Billy McKinney. Like, that's not the actions of a team that is ready to contend. I know the Dodgers traded for Billy McKinney last year, but that was when they were having injury issues. That was to fill a need. That wasn't an off-season trade. A team that trades for Billy McKinney in November, I don't think they're quite there ready to contend yet. And Clayton Kershaw, he's been in the league for 14 seasons, and he's made the postseason in, I think, 11 of them, like including the last 9. Clayton Kershaw is used to playing in the postseason, used to being on a contender, used to having a chance every time the season starts, knowing we have a chance to win the World Series this year. Yeah, it only happened once, but they have a chance every year. And that's not going to be the case with the Rangers. And so for me, I have a really hard time seeing Kershaw choosing to go play for the Rangers. In my opinion, if he were to decide I want to be closer to home, he would decide, okay, I'm going to be at home. I'm not going to be playing for a bad team that's kind of near where my family lives. Some people say, well, what about the Astros? They're in Texas too. And if you've ever seen a map, I don't know if you know, but Texas is pretty big, and Houston and Dallas aren't actually very close to each other at all. And so realistically, playing in Texas isn't that much different than playing in LA. Yeah, I guess Ellen and the kids could hop in the car and drive down from Dallas to Houston. More likely they'd fly. And so it's a difference between a 50-minute flight and a 2-hour flight, which, yeah, it's half the time, but it's a flight. You're on an airplane. So I don't think that playing in Houston, especially even if there wasn't baggage related to the Astros, I don't think that playing in Houston would do anything for Kershaw. Throw in the baggage and the fact that Kershaw literally had a World Series title stolen by the cheating cheaters, and that doesn't seem likely at all. So for me, it's Dodgers or retirement. I don't see him going to the Rangers. I could be wrong. I don't know Clayton Kershaw personally as much as I wish I did. He's been my best friend for years. I think it's time we finally meet, but for now, I don't know what's going on in his head. But me trying to project, it's hard to picture a guy like Kershaw wanting to play on a bad team just because they happen to play closer to his family. I guess short version is Chris Woodward's comments. He's the Rangers manager. I guess I in case you don't know that. He used to be the Dodgers third base coach. Now he's the Rangers manager. His comments don't shed any new light or change my opinion on what is most likely to happen. And you can tell Woodward doesn't really have any idea either, because he said if he wants to play here, we'd love to have him, which means he's not getting any indication either. The other report that came out on Tuesday, I guess, was that it was a Ken Rosenthal article just basically reiterating that the Dodgers are pushing hard on re-signing Corey Seager. There was some speculation that might have been a planted story to get the Yankees to push harder. And that's, it came through Ken Rosenthal, and usually Scott Boras clients go through John Heyman. But, all these guys, they have their sources, and the way they have sources is by treating their sources nice, by pushing the stories they want them to push. There's very much a quid pro quo business. I'm having struggling talking. I can't even say the phrase, I'm struggling talking tonight correctly. So I don't know, maybe I'm having a stroke or something. I hope not, because I like doing this podcast stroke free. So we don't really know what this report means, but I think it's probably accurate that the Dodgers do want to re-sign Corey Seager. It's kind of interesting with what Vince and I were talking about yesterday, and all the things, how all these free agent things tie together. Because if the Dodgers re-sign Seager, what do they do with Trey Turner? Do they keep him too, or do they look to trade him? Whether they do, does that change their push on Chris Taylor? Does it change their possibility of going after, say a Suzuki from Japan? All these things. So everything's tied together, even though it's all different positions. But it makes sense that Dodgers are pushing hard on Seager, because Seager is an excellent hitter. When he's healthy, he's one of the best hitters in baseball. And I do believe, as I've said before, that he still has a few years left at shortstop. I think that when he's healthy, he is an average shortstop, and that's good enough when you hit as well as he does. Obviously, an elite defensive shortstop would be awesome, but Seager can do the job. And all that. So I still think the Dodgers are going to re-sign Seager with all the looming labor issues coming up. Who knows? We did find out that MLB and the union agreed to push up the deadline to non-tender players a couple days, so that basically, so it would happen before any lockout. So if players get non-tendered, they'll have a couple days to sign with a different team if they so choose to. So I don't think that'll affect the Dodgers. I don't think they have any major non-tender candidates, despite what people might tell you about Cody Bellinger. So anyway, long story short, the Rosenthal report also said that Seager is a good possibility to sign before any sort of lockout, which would be in the next week or so. So we'll probably start getting some news, maybe some real news soon. And hopefully it'll be like the Mookie extension, where we don't hear much of anything real, and then suddenly it's happening. And the Dodgers have re-signed Seager. That's what I'm hoping for. So to come back in a minute, I'm going to talk about some signings the Dodgers did make, and another potential free agent target that they might be going after, who is on the market now. So keep it locked on Dodgers. Thanksgiving is coming up, as you know. In fact, it's tomorrow, and lots of good food. And you should add to your rotation of good food some Built Bar, because Built Bar has the advantage of being good and also being healthy. I just got 2 boxes of the coconut brownie chunk that I ordered. I think the last day that it was available, the other day, I ordered some more. Keep an eye out, because when it comes back, you're going to want to get some, because it's delicious. And whatever your favorite Built Bar is, if you don't have a favorite, you should order a mix box. If you do have a favorite, have some of those on Thanksgiving. Eat the good food, like the unhealthy food too. That's part of Thanksgiving. But, you don't need 3 slices of pie. Maybe replace one of those slices of pie with a Built Bar. You don't necessarily need to gorge yourself. With Built Bar, you can eat stuff that's delicious and doesn't make you feel awful, because it's healthy. It's low calorie, low carb, low fat, high protein, and all of them are covered in 100% real chocolate. So anytime you're hungry, grab a Built Bar, even if it's not Thanksgiving yet or after Thanksgiving, grab a Built Bar when you're hungry. Be sure to check out Built.com all month. They're going to have limited time flavors and surprises arriving regularly. And on Black Friday, mark your calendar, because Black Friday will be a huge event at Built.com with all sorts of surprises. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and you'll get 15% off your next order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, I am back, and I want to thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every day. If you're not listening every day, we would love if you had a day or two to your rotation. If you want to check us out on YouTube, see our faces while we're doing the show, you can do that. Just search for Locked On Dodgers on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe over there. Every time we hit a round number of 100 subscribers, we're doing a giveaway. And so, which reminds me, I think I have a giveaway to do, to do the drawing on. I might have even forgotten to. Anyway, we're doing giveaways every time we hit a round number. I think we're about 75 away from our next giveaway, so go subscribe there. So back to the show. The Dodgers signed two minor leaguers who both played in the big leagues in 2021. So not quite minor leaguers, but Beau Burrows, who pitched for the Tigers and Twins in 2021, and then Jason Martin, who played for the Rangers in 2021. Surprisingly, all the guys going from the Dodgers to the Rangers, we have a guy going the opposite direction. Dodgers signed Jason Martin. Jason Martin, most notable, he was in the Astros and Pirates trade of Garrett Cole. He was one of the guys who came to the Pirates in exchange for Garrett Cole, along with Michael Feliz and Joe Musgrove. The other notable thing and Colin Moran was in there too. The other notable thing about Jason Martin is back in 2018, maybe 17, one of those years when he was playing for Buies Creek Astros. I saw him play when I was in Myrtle Beach on vacation, went to a Myrtle Beach Pelicans game playing Buies Creek, and Jason Martin in his first 3 at-bats of that game hit 3 home runs. And then he had 3 more opportunities to hit his 4th homer of the game, ended up 3 for 6, did not get that 4th home run. But he was born in Corona. I was also born in Corona. Don't worry, that is not one of my security questions. So good luck getting my banking information from that. But he was born in Corona, California. Went to high school in Orange, at Orange Lutheran High School. And so Southern California boy, signed with the Dodgers. He's an outfielder. He's got speed, and in the minors, he could hit sometimes. He hasn't shown that ability in the big leagues, but in the minors, he wasn't great, but he had a 786 career OPS in the minors, and 97 stolen bases. Not a super efficient base stealer. He had 1 year in 2015. He had 14 stolen bases and 15 caught stealings. So, I guess it was 2017 he played in Buies Creek. Anyway, so they signed Jason Martin. The other guy is Beau Burrows. Beau Burrows is a former first-round draft pick of the Tigers in 2015, which was an interesting draft for pitchers, as you know. Phil Bickford was in that draft. Walker Buehler was in that draft. And Beau Burrows was basically right between Bickford and Buehler. Bickford was picked 18th, Burrows was 22nd, and Buehler was 24th. And so, the Dodgers now have 3 pitchers who were drafted in the first round of that draft. Burrows has not been successful in the big leagues yet. To put it mildly, he has been really bad in the big leagues. In 2021, he pitched 11 innings and allowed 17 earned runs. That's really bad. Just has not put it together at big league level. But obviously, if the Dodgers sign him, they see something in him. And whether that is something of we want to play with him in the minors and see if we can figure something out, or we have figured something out and we think we can fix him. Either way, you got to like the Dodgers' approach. What we've seen that they've done with some of these other guys who they've signed or traded for, like Phil Bickford, guys along those lines. Beau Burrows is more of a reclamation project than Phil Bickford was for sure. But there's definitely possibility there. He still has good stuff. He's only 25 years old. And so there's potential for him to put it together if the Dodgers can help him tap into that potential. And basically, if any team can do it, I think it's the Dodgers. So we'll see. I'm not quite ready. After I got burned on Victor Gonzalez a couple years ago, I'm not going to go ahead and say I'll eat my shoe if Beau Burrows is a big contributor to the 2022 Dodgers, but I don't expect him to be. But I will say stranger things have happened. And honestly, I expect it more than I expected Victor Gonzalez in 2020. That's for sure. But Beau Burrows is an interesting one. Big, strong guy with good stuff. So maybe the Dodgers can turn him into something. He's a Texas boy from Fort Worth, went to Weatherford High School in Weatherford, Texas. But he came to the Dodgers. He seems excited about it. I found out about it when he tweeted about it. So Beau Burrows to the Dodgers. One other guy I want to talk about is a guy who has not signed with the Dodgers, but he was just released by the Yankees today. That is Clint Frazier. As soon as the Yankees DFA'd Clint Frazier the other day, people started talking about him as a potential fit for the Dodgers. And it's an interesting possibility. Frazier, it's kind of interesting because up until 2021, he's always been a good hitter in the big leagues. Like, he was a top prospect. He was another first-round pick in the 2013 draft. He's 27 years old now. He was picked 5th overall out of high school in Georgia in 2013. And he was part of a couple high-profile trades, if I remember right, because he went to the just one. So he went from the Indians to the Yankees with Justice Sheffield and a couple other guys for Andrew Miller, back when Andrew Miller was a guy that you would want to trade for. And Clint Frazier was kind of the highlight of that trade package. A lot of people were sad at the time that he had to cut his hair and shave and stuff. He had long red hair, and the Yankees, don't allow personality. So maybe that's it. Maybe all he needs to do is grow that hair back out, get some Justin Turner time, and, maybe he'll be fine. But like I said, former first-round draft pick. He was picked, right a few picks after Chris Bryant, a few picks before Phil Bickford the first time he was drafted. Hunter Renfroe was later in that round. So some decent, Billy McKinney. Wow, I forgot he was a first-round draft pick too. So, Aaron Judge was picked in that round. So, there's some, Clint Frazier used to have a lot of prospect shine. He doesn't have that shine anymore. But up until 2021, he could always hit. And the question was more, can he play defense? And in 2020, in the short season, he actually put together his best offensive season and his best defensive season. And to this point, basically his only good season of his career in 60 games. He only played 39 games and he had a 1.8 WAR. I mean, that is an excellent season. Unfortunately, his defense regressed again this year to the point where it was worse than it's ever been. And that's the big question with him is, can he even play enough defense to stay on the field? Because you probably can't hit enough to be a DH type. But if they can figure out the defense, it's so hard to tell. One season of defense, is it bad defense? Is it a fluke? Who knows? And so we saw Bryce Harper going into free agency, had a historically bad defensive season, and he's been fine defensively since he signed with the Phillies. So, maybe the same thing happens with Clint Frazier. Who knows? Obviously, he's not going to be signed to be a starting outfielder with the Dodgers, but he is a guy who can be a little bit intriguing just because he does have that old prospect shine. He is, he's got a lot of talent and skills, and the Dodgers seem like a team that might go after that. As a bench player, we've talked about their need for a right-handed bat off the bench, and so Clint Frazier might be a guy the Dodgers would go after. Who knows? There's going to be a lot of interest from a lot of teams because, he does have that history of being good or potentially good. And so we'll have to see what happens. So that's kind of it on the Dodgers signings and potential signings. I'm going to come back in a minute. I'm going to talk about two guys who did sign with teams, Steven Matz, a new contract with the Cardinals, and Wander Franco, an extension with the Tampa Bay Rays. But I want to thank you all first for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every day. If you're not making it your first listen, check it out. We're here every weekday, and we love talking Dodgers with you. So thanks for doing that, and keep it Locked On Dodgers. It's Thanksgiving, and we all know what that means, football. And nothing goes better with football than turkey and betting. BetOnline has you covered all holiday season. More props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this Thanksgiving. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive a 50% welcome bonus with promo code LOCKEDON. It's not just football. BetOnline has pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, even your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. BetOnline, we're stuffed with deals this Thanksgiving. All right, let's wrap this up with one last conversation, actually two last conversations that are related. Steven Matz, we've talked a few times about him as a potential target for the Dodgers. That is no longer on the table. He signed a 4-year deal with the St. Louis Cardinals, $44 million, so $11 million a year average. I was surprised to hear Matt's got 4 years. He did have a really good season in 2021. I don't know that it was a 4 years good season, but the pitching market has been interesting so far this offseason. The pitchers are getting paid a little bit more than we might have expected. And getting 4 years it's interesting. I saw somebody say, how did Steven Matz get more than Anthony DeSclafani? And, that's a fair question. They both had good seasons this year, but I think maybe over their careers, DeSclafani maybe has a better history and had a better 2021. But, Matt's got what he needed from the Cardinals. The Cardinals liked what they saw in him, needed a left-handed starter. And so to go along with Jack Flaherty and Adam Wainwright, he'll slot in there as, their second or third starter probably. And good for Steven Matz. I'm glad. I guess I'm not surprised that the Dodgers didn't sign him if he had a 4-year offer somewhere. I could see him as more of a let's take a gamble on a guy and try to get the potential out of him signing for the Dodgers, but that wasn't in the cards. Pun didn't become intended until halfway through that sentence about the Cards. But the Cardinals, they liked what they saw and figured it was worth going an extra year or two over what other people were offering in order to get him. And so good for them, good for him. And all in all, good for the Dodgers that they didn't do that contract, I think. It's just one more. I don't even know, like what Vince and I talked about yesterday was that John Heyman's tweet listed 8 teams that were interested in Matz, and the Dodgers weren't even listed as one of them. So who knows how interested they were. But at the end of the day, whatever interest they had is gone now because he is now a Cardinal. But a guy who's not a Cardinal is Wander Franco, and he probably won't ever be because he is going to be a Tampa Bay Ray, at least supposedly for a long time. He signed an 11-year extension with an option for a 12th year. Of course, we know that sometimes the Rays, as we haven't seen the breakdown on how front-load or back-loaded the contract is, and so sometimes as guys get expensive, the Rays might be looking to trade them. And so who knows if Franco will actually play that whole 11 or 12 years with the Rays. But for right now, there's a lot of mixed reports on this. A guy who has basically half a season of experience getting an 11-year, possibly 12-year extension is not quite unheard of, but it's definitely not common. We saw even Fernando Tatis Jr.'s extension, he had parts of a couple seasons in, and so he had a lot more playing time than Franco does. Franco has 308 plate appearances in the big leagues, but he had a 129 OPS, and that's even with struggling for the first month or so that after he came up. He basically from after his first month in the big leagues, if you look, he was batting under 200 after 15 games on July 11th. If we go from then until the end of the season, I'm just going to do a quick tally. He batted 314, 372, 500 slugging, 872 OPS. And that's for a shortstop who also played really good defense. Wander Franco, that I saw some people saying on social media, that giving a guy this young this contract when he hasn't proven anything is crazy. Somebody said, imagine giving Yasiel Puig this extension after his first year and then seeing what happened after that. For me, the big difference between Franco and Puig is that Franco has the prospect status. Franco has hit everywhere he's gone. He has been an excellent hitter. He has been the top prospect in baseball for a couple of years. He has been a guy who everybody has known he is going to be an excellent major leaguer. And then he came to the major leagues and he was an excellent major leaguer. Like, as long as Franco stays healthy, he's going to be an excellent hitter. And chances are, he's turned himself into a pretty good shortstop too. So chances are he's going to be extremely valuable. If he stays healthy, there's no question he's going to be more valuable in what this contract is. But that if he stays healthy thing, he doesn't have any injury history to speak of. Everybody has nagging things once in a while, but he doesn't have any major injury history, but nobody does until they do. And that's the thing. How many 20-year-olds, he's only 20, how many 20-year-olds didn't have an injury history, and then by the time they were 24 or 26 or 28, they did. And so that's the big question with Franco and with anybody signing an extension this long. We even saw it with Mookie's extension, is what is the health history going to look like a few years from now? Mookie Betts signed that big extension, was kind of banged up this year. Mike Trout signed a big extension, missed most of this year with injury. And Fernando Tatis signed the big extension, was on the injured list 85 different times this year. It's going to happen to everybody. And the question only is he going to be hurt more than, is he going to be hurt enough that he's not worth the contract? And like I said, right now, Wander Franco could be the next Cal Ripken. Maybe he plays every game for the next 20 years. Maybe he never gets hurt. Obviously that's not likely, but he could be very durable and absolutely be worth every penny. And if I had to put money on one or the other right now, I'd put money on Franco being worth the extension, worth the money. But there's always that nagging question. And so that's where I think that's why he was willing to do this, because there's that security. Franco knows if he stays healthy, he would make a ton more than the $185 million that's being guaranteed to him in this contract. He would make a ton more than that if he stays healthy. But there's that question. Right now, he's made no money. And now suddenly, he has a guarantee of $185 million. That is life-changing money for him and generations to come. That is huge. And so, it's the same thing, the same reason Ozzie Albies and Ronald Acuna took their extensions with the Braves. Both of them got to be looking at Franco's extension and thinking, maybe our agents kind of suck, because Franco managed to sign an extension that still has everybody saying, well, that's a good deal for the Rays. And also, wow, Wander Franco got a crap load of money. And Acuna and Albies, obviously they got a crap load of money too, but only compared to what you and I make, not compared to what Wander Franco makes. And so it's, but that's why Franco's willing to do this, because he gets that security now, knowing if the worst happens, if he has a career-ending injury, guess what? He's made his money. And obviously he hopes that doesn't happen. He wants to play for that whole 11 or 12 years. He wants to be a great player. He wants to go to the Hall of Fame, the things every 20-year-old budding superstar wants to do. But he has that security now, financial security, and you can't put a price tag on financial security. It is so meaningful to people. And so this is a risk that the Rays are taking, giving him this lengthy contract at this young age. It's also a risk he's taking. His risk is more, man, I could have made a lot more. But it's a risk that's worth taking on both sides for different reasons. And so the deal makes sense. And, it's the kind of deal we kind of wanted the Dodgers to do with Corey Seager early in his career. And, he was a Boras client. That was never going to happen. But the Dodgers haven't done a lot of these, but it's the kind of extension the Rays do sometimes. They did it with Evan Longoria, and so signing the guys, it's kind of the thing the Marlins tried to do with Giancarlo Stanton. And then within a few years, they had traded him. Franco's contract would be easier to trade than Stanton's was, because it's about, a little over half the money, because Franco isn't the proven commodity that Stanton was. But in the end, Franco comes out a winner because he has a ton of money. The Rays come out a winner because they have a budding superstar for relatively little money compared to what he could make on the open market. So as of right now, it's win-win, and whether it remains win-win will depend on whether Wander Franco remains healthy throughout his career. That didn't have anything to do with the Dodgers, but I'm a baseball fan. I like talking about baseball, and that was big news in baseball, so I wanted to talk about it today. So that's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you all for listening. Like I said, we will be with you tomorrow to do some sort of Thanksgiving episode. If you want to shoot us some messages telling us what you're thankful for, Dodgers related, maybe we'll share some of those on the show. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every day. And today, for your second listen, check out Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Locked On Dodgers. Obviously, follow us or subscribe to us on YouTube also at Locked On Dodgers. You can follow Vince on Twitter at Vince Samperio. I'm on Twitter at Snidog, and the DMs are open in all of those places. Our email address is lockedondodgers@gmail.com, and our phone number for voicemails or texts is 323-863-LOCK-5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree, you just have to listen. We'll talk to you tomorrow.